Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the TMossBoss Show. In today's episode, I wanted to talk on this comedian that was at Kevin Hart's roast. It's like a roast show where they roast a celebrity. I think I think it's a show where they just pretty much get like random celebrities, because I've seen where they've done one where it's just like it's a bunch of different people. So I think it's a show itself, but they just have different celebrities and guests and all that. I think it originated on Comedy Central, but I think this time it was on Netflix. But anyways, it was a like the roast of Kevin Hart. I think that's what they called it. And it's pretty much they'll have like a bunch of different people, celebrities, comedians, where they are thinking of the most offensive things that they can possibly say. And yeah, have sat down and watched some clips of these types of shows, and I've seen where people have kind of like turned it into their own form of media, where they'll have it'll be like a YouTube video, for an example. But, yeah, man, I done heard some stuff. I think the craziest was the one where it was a comedian. And so to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, Pete Davidson, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys know who he is. But his dad was a firefighter. But sadly, he passed away during the 9/11 attacks. So that was something that I knew of before the roast. Like, and I think that's what it is too, is that they don't just strictly roast Kevin Hart. I think he's like a main event, like just using it as an example. But they'll roast like other people that's up there on stage and stuff, you know. So it's not just strictly Kevin Hart that's being roasted. It's a bunch of people being roasted. It's just like it's Kevin Hart. He's pretty much the main event of the roast and stuff. So, but anyways. This comedian, he gets up on stage, and this isn't during the Kevin Hart roast. This is like during another roast. This happened some years ago. But the comedian gets up on stage, and I think the way that he worded the joke, he was all like something that caught more smoke than Pete Davidson's dad. And I'm thinking to myself, I know you have to understand. Like I mean, I get it. Like everybody got like their own different sense of humor and things. Like I think even Pete Davidson cracked a joke, but I'm like, okay, that's Pete Davidson. You couldn't pay me all the money in the world to crack a joke about somebody's dead parent. Like there's so many different things that I would talk on, but I am not going to cross that boundary. No, and you know, the thing is this, I get it. It's supposed to be fun. People are, like they're having a good time. I don't know. I feel like at times, like people, because here's the thing. We all might be different in our own ways, but I feel like how the human mind and body, how it operates, it's one and the same. So there are going to be things where it's like, okay, I'm not going to talk on that because I feel like that it's going to pretty much be a bad, like put out a bad reputation for me. Like, oh, if I get on people for talking about my dad, but I'm thinking to myself, like, you're a comedian. You should. My thing is this. I'm not no comedian. I try to be funny at times, but I don't think I am particularly ready to cross into that stand-up comedy or just comedy scenery and stuff. Yeah, I'll do like comedy skits and crack a few jokes here and there in a YouTube video, but I'm not going to call myself a full-blown comedian. But the thing is this, the times before where I have seen certain, YouTube videos, for an example, if I'm doing a reaction video and there's some stuff going on, there's so many different things that I can talk on. I'm not going to find the one dark thing to explore and be like, oh yeah, this is a, I can use some crack some jokes surrounding that. No, bruh. No. I'm like, it's one of those things I just, can't do that. And I guess people, and I just remember the one time when it was this comedian, he cracked a joke about Paul Walker after he passed. And people were trying to explain this to me, but I guess with me, I'm looking at it from a perspective where it's like, okay, if Paul Walker is my friend and I see a comedian, famous comedian at that, cracking jokes about him, obviously I'm going to feel a certain way about that. To tell a person not to feel a certain way, oh, because it's comedy, it's jokes, it's all laughs and giggles. It's funny because I remember people, they were getting on me about talking on that and stuff, because I remember I did a YouTube video, I talked about it, and I was like, nah, man, that's not cool. Fast forward 2018, XXXTentacion, I'm pretty sure some of you guys know who he is. He passed away tragically, and this comedian thought it would be in good taste, quote unquote, in good taste to crack jokes about him after he passed. And yeah, it pretty much ruined her career. I don't think, maybe she might be doing good now. I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those things where if her career was just starting off, she ruined it before it can even get started. So, but now, fast forward, Kevin Hart roast. You know, I was going to watch it, but it just slipped my mind. I got busy doing other things. But there's this comedian where I have heard about him before. I think he then did some, yeah, because he has like a show I think called Kill Tony or something like that. But no, I have heard like he is a pretty dark comedian. Like he'll say some things where it's like, you know, I guess other comedians would think twice about, you know, crossing into that territory of dark comedy and stuff. So, but anyways, the comedian, his name is Tony Hinchcliffe. I think that's how you say his last name. So I'm going to read out the headline because it was posted on TMZ. I'm going to read out the headline. It starts off by saying, George Floyd, fam rips Tony, Kevin Hart. I think they're trying to say, and Kevin Hart over yet another, quote, roast joke. And yeah, it was the joke that he cracked, and it was obviously about George Floyd. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't understand, like, why do people feel like they gotta crack jokes about George Floyd? Like, there's so many different things you can crack jokes on, but I'm like, why does George Floyd gotta be, like, the main subject of your joke? Like, and I know, again, people are gonna be all like, oh, that's dark comedy. It gets to a point where it's like, okay, are you trying to be funny or are you trying to be offensive? You know, like, I feel like that if you could be funny and offensive, then okay, you mastered the art of being a comedian. But if you are more offensive than funny, I just can't look at it as like, oh, okay, because in the way that the article, because I did read the whole article before doing this podcast episode, and the way that it ended off, I'm like, man, you know, it's tough on George Floyd's kids that they have to constantly hear, and I think they were saying that too, that I don't know if it was just one kid or all, but his kids are being bullied, you know, and I know people are gonna probably like try to argue with that and be all like, oh, that's their problem, that's this. Yeah, it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, find something else to joke around about, you know, and I know some it did say that in the article where if it was one of his friends or family members, how would that make him feel? That's the thing. I feel like comedians like him, they don't care, you know, like you have to find something that's equally disrespectful. And it might not be the same thing that you look at as disrespectful. It might be something else that he doesn't really talk on. Now, I'm not saying that we need to find out what that is and give him a taste of his own medicine. I feel like that he'll cross that bridge at some point in time in his life. He'll, you know, there'll be something that's offensive, you know, that's offensive being said to him where he feels that he would need to check somebody about it. So, but anyways, yeah, let's go ahead and read off this article. So it starts off, again, posted on TMZ. George Floyd's family and friends are appalled. Tony Hinchcliffe was invited back for a Netflix roast, and they're blaming Kevin Hart for allegedly giving Tony the green light to do another joke about George. Joke they didn't find funny in the slightest. And here's the thing, I'm not trying to defend Kevin Hart. Like, at the end of the day, I don't know if he knew that he was going to crack that joke. Like, I don't know if, because I'm pretty sure them guys don't be going over the jokes beforehand and stuff. There, maybe Tony might have went over the joke with some people that he knew, but I don't think he went over the joke with Kevin Hart and stuff. So, yeah, I think that, you know, I'm pretty sure that conversation was probably like, hey, yeah, just, you know, say whatever, do whatever. And, yeah, just go up there and have fun and things. And that's the thing. People hear that and then they, you know, I guess twist those words. And it's like, oh, I can say whatever I can do. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like that there's a lot of different jokes that you could crack. George Floyd jokes. It's just, yeah, it gets to a point where it's like, okay. And I think they were saying that he's done cracked jokes about George Floyd before, and I'm like, fam, do you have like some strange obsession with George Floyd? Like, I just I don't know. I feel like that he needs to explain himself, but that's the thing. Comedians, they kind of like magicians. They ain't going to explain the trick and stuff. So yeah, you know, with comedians, they're like, hey, you either find the joke funny or you don't. But anyways, but then the article goes on to say, Travis Kane's a spokesman for the Gianna and George Floyd Foundation, tells TMZ Kevin condoning Tony's joke is sad for the culture. Tony was among the comedians roasting Kevin, and during his set, he proclaimed, "The black community is so proud of you right now. George Floyd is looking up at us, all laughing so hard he can't breathe." Yeah, and I'm like, man, I just don't understand, like, why do you need to crack that joke? Like, I know there's gonna be people, and that's the thing, I guess, like, just talking to those people real quick, the one that's going to condone it, put yourself, I guess, in George Floyd's friends and family in their shoes. How would that make you feel? And I'm not trying to hear I just want to be right on this, answer and stuff, so I'm going to answer it in the opposite of what you thinking the answer is going to be. Nah, you going to be offended, okay? If my thing is this, let it, I guess, have been, I'm trying to think of somebody. Dang, man, I can't think of nobody from the white community where it's like they were on that same status as, dang, I was like, because I'm like, I don't want to cross no bounds or, no boundaries myself. But I'm like, I guess, like, if there was somebody in the white community that was wrongfully killed and things, and, black people were cracking, y'all would be talking about that, and there'll definitely be those posts. It'll be on Twitter where they're like, I'm like, let us crack a joke about George Floyd, and then it's all like, we got to get sued and all these other different things. And it's like, yeah, because that, I guess, I don't know, with me, I don't really see too many black comedians doing that, and maybe there is, I don't know, but I just haven't seen it. It's not like how it is with, I guess some white comedians out there. I'm not gonna say all of them, but I feel like, you got them like overly offensive white comedians. Yeah, they'll say some stuff like that, and it's like, bruh, I don't understand it. Like, I just don't understand, why does he have to be brought up in that, like, environment and stuff. But anyways, then the article goes on to say, we're told George's family and friends feels like Kevin should have told Tony to stay off that topic, if nothing else. And they're baffled and disgusted by Tony's apparent obsession with telling George Floyd jokes. So he has told more than one jokes. And then they go on to say, during the Tom Brady roast, Tony joked that Rob Gronkowski looked like the final boss in a George Floyd the video game. Yeah, I just don't understand. Like, that's all that came to mind was just George Floyd jokes. Like, I'm pretty sure he said some other stuff, but I'm like, fam, it gets to a point where it's like, all right, bro, move on from the George Floyd stuff. Like, even if it's on some stuff where it's like, oh, it's new jokes, but it's like, okay, you're still having the same subject. Like, move on to something else, but anyways, then the article ends off with George's daughter, Gianna, is 12 years old now. She was only 6 when he died, and the foundation says she's being bullied in school, so it sounds like the jokes aren't helping. We're told George's family and friends feel Tony is a racist comedian, and they're wondering how Kevin would feel about these jokes if one of his friends died instead of George. Bottom line, from the foundation, we are trying to rebuild things for our community and make things better in our community. Let's try to be a little bit more positive and not sit up there doing colon inspections by white comedians. Yeah. Colon inspections by white, not my fault. But anyways, yeah, I'm not trying to defend anybody, but I just know that with comedy, that everybody has like their own plate when it comes to comedy, where you got some people, they want the overly dramatic, well, not dramatic, but it's just, the overly offensive comedy and stuff. And now I have thought of that. Like, I do want to do either a stand-up comedy show or get into stand-up comedy. But yeah, I just feel like that there's certain jokes like you can avoid in things, and I feel like that that's one of them. Because I just know that okay, so let's say it was that one girl that got stabbed on that train by that crazy black dude and stuff. Like, if I was, cracking jokes about her, people would be getting on me about that, and that's the thing where it's like, I'm not saying that, there's something about her life to joke around about. Obviously, there's not. That's the point that I'm trying to make, is that there are just certain subjects and topics and people that you just don't really talk on when it comes to comedy. Now, if it's a bad person, then, hey, yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, they still got friends and family, too, that care about them. But I just think that, I know people are gonna be like, oh, George Floyd was a bad person. We do not know nothing about George Floyd besides the information that came out about him afterwards, and the video that we all saw back in 2020. That's why I'm like, people trying to like make it out is like, oh, George Floyd was a suspect, he did this and did that. Fam, I feel like I said everything I need to say about George Floyd. Overall, I'm like, I don't agree with what happened with him and stuff. So that's why I'm like, I don't know, like, yeah, I feel like that, I guess like talking on Kevin Hart on his side, he probably didn't know. So that's why I'm not really looking at Kevin Hart as a, a bad guy in this whole situation. It's like, yeah, people probably don't be expecting stuff like that. So it ain't like they're doing rehearsals on stand-up comedy and things, So yeah, they're probably like, oh, okay. He might have told them like, oh, I'm gonna probably joke around with this, and this, but I don't know if he knew anything about the George Floyd stuff. I guess like if Kevin Hart ever comes out and talks about it and things, there'll probably be somebody out there that'll question him about it if he does like an interview or somewhere and things. But other than that, yeah, I just think that it's one of those things though where I feel like that talking on the Tony guy, that it is going to be a point in time where he is going to have to answer for all that stuff. Because to me, I just find that just crazy where it's like, why are you telling George Floyd jokes? And I get it. You a comedian. You can say whatever and do whatever. But it's like, fam, it gets to a point where it's like enough is enough. For one, that situation happened 6 years ago. If that man is still on your mind heavily like that, I mean, obviously, yeah, you are going to be thinking about him and stuff from time to time. But I mean, like, in that environment, like, I'm not trying to hear, no, it's like, oh, it's been years, like, so he's allowed to crack jokes, or even if it was on some stuff where it was around the same time too soon, it doesn't matter. Me personally, I feel like that George Floyd jokes, they shouldn't be cracked, but that's the thing. I guess I'm doing this podcast episode because I know that comedians, they ain't gonna listen to what I am saying and stuff. They still, if they want to crack a George Floyd joke, they gonna do it. So that's just the thing with stand-up comedians and people that are just kind of in a hard-headed position. They're not going to listen to things where it's like, hey, you're right, I understand, I'm not gonna do. But it's like, it shouldn't even be that type of conversation. It's like, you should know not to crack no jokes like that. So yeah, that's why I'm like, yeah, maybe he does have some sort of obsession with George Floyd. But if not, then yeah, that guy, I just think that that's who he is. He's just an offensive comedian. And, there are some people out there that find that stuff funny, but yeah, it's like the rest of us, and I think if Kevin Hart was laughing at the joke, it's probably one of those nervous laughs, it's like, okay, let me just laugh so it ain't no situation and things. But yeah, I don't know. Me personally, if I'm up there, it's like, because was it live? I think it was live, so it's not like you could tell people to, hey, cut that part out and things. Because I think if it was pre-recorded, then yeah, I'd just be like, yeah, cut that part out. And I'm like, there's just some jokes that you just don't crack and things. But anyways, yeah, me personally, I just don't support that type of stuff. It goes for all parties, all races, all that stuff. Like, you just certain things you just don't joke around about and stuff. But yeah, I'm like, I guess let it be somebody that he, idolizes or is a fan of, or somebody that he supports or whatever. Talking on the Tony guy, you crack a joke. But I feel like I said, that's not going to get through to him. He's going to know that you're trying to upset him. So that's why I'm like, you have to find something that's like equally upsetting, but something that only he would know about, so that's why, yeah, I just think that, whatever that is, one day somebody might, figure it out and then crack that joke. And then, yeah, now, Tony, he might have a feeling of how other people felt and stuff. So if not that, then there'll probably be a situation where it'd be like years down the road, he's much more older and realize, but I mean, that man's like, how old is he? Cause he he don't look like he nobody around my age. So if he's anywhere around my age, I don't understand what is going on. I'm like, that man done had a hard life. But anyway, yeah, he's 41 years old. I was about to say, that man, it is no way possible that man is in his 20s. He don't even look like it. It's like, yeah, 20s with a lot of plastic surgery or something. But anyways, yeah, with that being said, I will talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching. And that's the thing. I know people are going to probably try to comment underneath talking about, oh, you should be allowed trying to defend it. I delete the comment. I'm like, I ain't trying to hear nobody trying to defend that type of stuff. There ain't no defense for that. There's people out there that's still suffering from the loss of George Floyd. More so his kids and stuff. It's going to be a lot of people that's going to move on. But I feel like that, people that knew him, family, friends, and that, like, the last image that they have of him is him pleading for his life. Yeah, I just think that people, they need to have a better understanding of that. So, but anyways, with that being said, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching and or listening. Stay tuned for the next episode, and peace.